Hi guys, welcome to Winsome Cottage Garden. My name is Hannah. I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. We are still at the cottage and we have a little project to do before we go home later today, which is planting some things we got on a Lowe's clearance haul. You guys know that I tend to haunt the Lowe's clearance section every time we go into town or I happen to be there, just kind of walking through to see what's new. And I find it's a great way to get plants and fill up your garden spaces if you're working on a budget. It's also the time of year that nurseries will start discounting any perennials and shrubs that are left. So I have some items on my wish list that I'd like to pick up that I know I won't find at a Lowe's clearance section to kind of help fill in some of the gaps in our yard here at the cottage. Now today we're doing a Lowe's clearance haul, so everything except one thing I actually bought at the Lowe's clearance section last time I was here. I didn't get it planted in the ground on that trip, and so now their time has come and we're going to get them in the ground today. Starting with some shade plants I was able to pick up, including an astilbe, which you guys know I've mentioned a couple times. I want to increase our astilbe game in that front deer-resistant garden off the garage. Here are the two plants I was able to get off the Lowe's clearance section. A lot of times Lowe's will put things on clearance as soon as they bloom out. Got a small window to get them while they're still looking good before they get a little bit crispy. You can see this one had a tiny bit of damage here and there, but it's gonna be fine. This is a unique lilac astilbe, so I'm really interested to see what it looks like, but I'll give you some more stats once we get it in the ground. And then over here, able to pick up another Brennera. This is actually a Jack Frost Siberian bug loss one. Now, I've mentioned in a few videos we did not have the best of luck with Brennera last year. Right now, I think we have Sailor's Heart because we planted 3 or 4 varieties. Jack Frost was not one of them. And only one variety came back from our winter last year. I know it was a bit of an odd winter based on some other damage that happened, but when we chose to replace them, we went with the variety that came back. This being on the clearance rack, I thought we'd take a chance and pop it in the ground to see what happens. So I actually decided that I'm going to put the Brennera around the side of the house, so we'll go plant that in just a second, but I want to show you where this astilbe ended up first. Here she is. This is the unique lilac astilbe by Monrovia. It's going to get 12 to 16 inches high and 12 to 16 inches tall. 5 and up is its hardiness level. It's supposed to get, I would think by the name unique lilac, that it's supposed to get like purpley, though if you look at this, a little pinky. Either way, I think it'll be a really pretty pop right there. And I think that's probably, like with the bloom stalks, it'll get about 16 inches tall, but I'm guessing that's as tall as the foliage will get. Could be wrong, but I think it'll add a nice pop. I would love to get one more astilbe for this area, but a larger growing one. I actually have a couple more that I need to move out of my house, including some toad lilies that are in a bad area. Because I had a tree removed a couple years ago. I've tried to keep them healthy and happy, and I think it's time to move them to a place that I know they're gonna like here. So we'll probably add some of those along the edge of the bed and tucked in here and there, though I did want to point out, look what finally decided to show up. This is a maidenhair fern that we planted when we built this bed last year, and I thought it died in the winter because this is the first I'm seeing of it in August. So I might not have chosen to plant this Brennera here. I think originally this is one of the Brennera that didn't survive and it was a little further over, but when that didn't come back, I said, let's move it over. Hopefully it'll survive there. Maybe it'll be a little more protected with the other plants. And they do grow tall and beautiful, and I do love their foliage. They're just so elegant. If I have to shift it a little bit, I will later. That's it in the front bed. Let us go to the side bed where this Brennera is gonna go. We are right next to the screened-in porch in the area where our air conditionings are, and I think I found the perfect little tucky place for this. This is actually goes to a mini split above our garage, and then there's the air conditioner for the house. I did consider putting it right here, but I want to see if I can get my hands on a few more painted ferns just to continue that line and see if I can edge them really close to the rocks to give them the space they need. So I think this guy is gonna go there. I think that'd be a nice little pop, especially against the hydrangea vine which I don't know if I've ever really said this. It's just a normal hydrangea, climbing hydrangea. Hasn't bloomed yet. Last year was its first full season, so it's its second full season, and it got planted in the fall. So all that to say, I'm hoping next year it'll bloom. I know that they can take a few years before they start to do so, and it has put on some tremendous growth this year and thickened up nicely at the bottom. So I think kind of edging it as close to the rocks as I can fit it right there would be good. I was thinking about right here though. Maybe that would be better. It would still give us access to this crawl space, and I can edge it forward a little bit more. And then maybe I put some toad lilies there. That might be pretty and mirror some of the stuff we have over here. Okay, I think that is actually where it's gonna go. Okay, this is in, and I think it's gonna look fantastic here. As I mentioned before, this is a Jack Frost Siberian bug loss, also known as a Brenner as its technical name. So this will put out some light blue blooms that are like very airy in the spring, which is really pretty. But we mostly plant them for their glorious foliage. You can see that they're just so silvery and beautiful. I love the blue-green quality as well as like the bright pop it'll bring. I really think it'll look so nice against this hydrangea right here. And this is an area that gets a fair amount of shade, not completely, but I think it'll be good to have some textural interest in here. Now this is going to get 12 by 15 inches tall and wide, so I think it'll fill in that space nicely while still allowing that path into the crawl space. And it is hardy down to a zone 4. So really hardy. I'm hoping it will be okay with this site since we had so much trouble with them last year, but it might have been just an odd happenstance. They also were known to like moist areas, and this is a moist area. So I'm hoping that it will really thrive in this spot, and I do think I'm either gonna get another one of my favorite astilbes or maybe some toad lilies in here to add a nice little pop right next to our air conditioning unit and also kind of screen it out a tiny bit. Next up in the Lowe's clearance haul is some catchfly I found. It's actually variegated, which I thought was really interesting. And it is flowering right now, which is a little unusual because catchfly are a spring flowering plant. So I'm not sure if it's types that will flower twice or it's just really stressed and confused because it's in a container pot. Either way, I know it'll flower in the spring. So I thought I would add it to the wisteria bed that we've been rebuilding a little bit around the edges because there's not a lot of spring interest in here. So let me show you what it looks like and where I'm going to plant it. These look a little sad. Again, these were from the Lowe's clearance rack, so it's not surprising. But they've got this beautiful foliar variegation, which I haven't seen in a catchfly before, which I think is so interesting. They also, in the spring, they put out these really beautiful pink flowers, and there's usually like a really big plethora of them. So I'm gonna move them a little over, but I thought that they'd be really pretty right along the path because they're a fairly low growing plant. And then I'm gonna pop one more over there for some continued varied interest. Let me get those in the ground. You can also see that there's a little weed seedlings that have popped up. I'm gonna quick use my hoe to get rid of those, and hopefully we can get this space mulched soon. Okay, I got those in. It's very humid today. I don't know if I said that, so I am really sweating quite a lot. I apologize. We got the catchfly in. I forgot until I was digging a hole that I actually planted some hyacinth bulbs my mom got for Mother's Day right where I planted one of these catchflies. One of them came up, I stuck it somewhere else. I probably destroyed the other two. That's kind of a bummer. Usually you don't want to put like bulbs in until the place is planted so you know where they can go. But when you're redesigning beds like we have, I should have remembered that one. Oh, let me say that. But when you're redesigning beds like we have, there's probably some bulbs that will come up and be destroyed in the process, which is really sad, but a tiny bit unavoidable. Anyway, let me show you how they look now that they're in the ground and give you some additional stats on this catchfly. They've got one here, and one there. I would have liked to move this one over a tiny bit more, but I was having trouble, and it ended up there. So I might choose to move it a little bit if it starts encroaching too much on the heuchera. We'll see. That one I think will get a little bit wider, so I may regret how close they are. You know what? I'm actually going to move it right now because I am going to regret how close they are. I already know that, so I'm going to move that guy over to hold. Okay, that is much better. Just a little bit further away, I think it'll be happier there. So these guys get 15 to 18 inches tall and wide, so it'll really butt up close to the plants we have in this section. But I would love a full bed. That'll help reduce the mulching we have to do, and it'll also help with weed suppression. So I think it'll be really pretty to have these three. There's the other one in there. I think that one in particular will be a really nice spot of color from below. These are non-hardy in zones 1 through 3. So 4 and up is where these can be. I can't wait till we get the roses in this space next year. And this really just fills out admirably. So the last plant we're going to get in the ground today is actually not something I found on the Lowe's clearance rack. It's something I actually recycled from a trash heap at work. Well, trash, it was a composting heap at work. So I work for a nonprofit that helps people who are on a cancer and grief journey with emotional and psychosocial support. We have a beautiful clubhouse where our members can come and take part in support groups or social activities and whatnot. And so we have these beautiful grounds that we have a whole host of volunteers that maintain. And we had some volunteers recently clearing out a plant that had gotten too thick and was taking over a space that I've always admired and been meaning to ask if I could take some when that time came. So I saw them walking past my window with this plant to our compost heap, and I quickly went and found our buildings and grounds manager and said, can I go take those? And literally siphon through them to see the ones that have the best root balls. I don't know how well they're going to do, because in talking with a volunteer, once she saw me going through the compost heap, she said, they had a hard time getting them out, so they were kind of ripped from the earth. I quickly got them in a bucket and got soil and water to them, and they look okay, but I'm hoping that there's at least 3 of them that will survive. I think I have a few more than that, and one of which I'm pretty sure is already dead. So I did give these a haircut as soon as I got them out of the trash heap, and they're not looking their best, but I want to show you what the blooms look like. I don't know what these are called, but they're so pretty, and they're actually amazing to work into flower arrangements. So I probably cut, when I got these out of this bucket right here, is how I rescued them, and there's probably 5 or 6 plants kind of shoved in here temporarily. You can see some of them did not like it, which this is the earliest opportunity I had to plant them, and I got these out probably 3 days ago. So they've had a little while to get sad. I did chop them back, probably cutting off like 18 inches. So I would say in the ground, these are about 5-ish feet high, 4 to 5 feet high, maybe a little taller when they like it. But they have, here's one branch that I did leave, the sweetest little blossoms. Now these are looking a little sad around the edges, but this is a really good representation of what they look like. And they have really tall branches with a plethora of blooms on them. So I absolutely love these. I'm so glad that I was able to rescue them. I am going to put them in this area, which first glance, I will admit, looks pretty terrible with some of the weeds. This is one of the beds that we want to do some work in and redefining what's in here. And I'm making an executive decision to start with these. So some things that I do know are staying in this area. These are actually red hot poker plants. These are like an early summer bloomer. So these will bloom in June. And then they kind of fade, and they've got this pretty grassy texture, but they're kind of boring. I think we can agree. We also have in here, it's hard to see amongst the weeds, but this is a hibiscus. It's a bright red hibiscus that is very delayed this year. And not really probably liking all of the weed pressure. So what I'm gonna do to the best of my ability is clear out some of these weeds, give it some breathing room. I'm not gonna tackle the grass today. That's gonna be a different day's project, but I can get these. These are actually really nasty ones. Clear out around these, and then I think I'm gonna tuck these plants behind everything at the back of this border. So like for instance, I'm gonna tuck one here, I'm gonna tuck one here, and then I think I'm gonna see how many I can tuck just around this hibiscus. That'll provide a really pretty pop of color from like mid-July onwards. And I think it'll mesh with everything that's in here really well. And actually, so you can see there's a lot of dead from winter dead, which we never got back. It's just been a very odd year up here. Typically it is not like this. I know I've said that, but it's just been an odd year with some unexpected things happening inside, not getting a head start on it in the spring like we usually do. We're actually started last fall, where we didn't do our typical fall cleanup, which meant our spring cleanup was worse. And by the time that got done, we just had so much rain, and it's been an odd year. There's lots of reasons why it's odd, but this doesn't typically happen. Hopefully next year you'll be able to see what a more typical spring looks like up here as we kind of get everything mulched, because it's a big project. I will admit that much. This yard probably takes about 30 yards of mulch. So if all of my siblings, I'm the oldest of 5, are here helping, my dad and I, then we can usually get it done in like a weekend, but it is a rough weekend moving that much mulch. I think one of the things we're going to do this year is try to do some of them in the fall as we redefine it, so that we can do some fall mulch beds and some spring mulch beds, so it's not one big project. The other thing that we're going to do over time is introduce a lot more ground covers, so that we don't have to do as much mulch overall, especially in these island beds. I'm thinking we'll probably use a lot of sweet woodruff, which is really nice at suppressing weeds. We don't like it in some of the areas up by the house because they do put on little burrs that we have small dogs. As you've seen, I have 2 and my parents have 3. And they just get in their fur, and it's awful. But the islands, the dogs don't go in. So it'd be a great place to have them. Anyway, quickly see if I can rip these up, stick them in my wheelbarrow, and see if I can get these guys in the ground. All the weeds up. I did end up pulling a tiny bit of the hibiscus up because I didn't realize until I got right in there that it was a lot bigger than I thought. And some of the things at their base resembled the weeds I was pulling, so I probably pulled up 4-ish stalks, which is not great, but it'll survive. It's still a lot bigger, as I said, than I thought, which I'm pleased with. And I see plenty of opportunities to stick these plants in the ground. So that is actually all hibiscus, which makes me really happy. There's still some weeds. I'm going to come in with my hoe in just a second and kind of clean these up a little. And I cleaned up what I could reach up here, but there are definitely pockets towards the back that I'm going to stick these guys. The next thing I'm going to do is actually take them apart and see how many plants I'm dealing with, and then I'll find spots for them. Okay, so I have 3 good ones and 1 questionable one. So I'm going to put the 3 good ones in the spots I'd really like them, and the questionable one kind of close to it, so if it does, I'm not too sad. Let's get these guys in the ground. Okay, that was the last thing I wanted to get in the ground today. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll definitely keep track of these. And our next garden tour will probably be early September. We just did an August cottage garden tour that we actually split into 3 videos. And if you haven't seen it, you should really go check it out. Because we talked, in one of them, we talked all about the island beds and our plans with those beds in the next year or so. And then we also explored some of the beds up by the house that we planted in today that had a lot more details than some of the plants that were nearby the ones we planted today. So anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.